Captain Kirk, write down 100 times I am a doofus. Very well. That's only 98 times, Captain. We're going to have an investigation to see whether you need a court-martial. But sir, the episode's called Court-Martial. I think this is a foregone conclusion.
Hello, I'm cosplaying as Sailor Moon.
Why?
Because the costume department thought it was funny.
Hello and welcome to another episode of TrekHammer, where we're looking at every single episode of Star Trek from the original series right through to the modern day, and we're doing it in quick review format. Today we're talking about episode 20 of the original series, Court-Martial. Okay, there's one thing that lawyers and Star Trek fans both agree on. A court drama episode is excellent. So, we know what we're going to have, a pretty good one today. We have Captain Kirk up for court-martial because it seems an awful lot like, well, he may have killed someone by negligence. So, there we are. We've got to have a court-martial. My goodness. So, what is the situation here? Kirk has beamed down to a starbase, I believe it's Starbase 11, and he's talking to the Commodore in charge of the starbase about what happened, the fact that a crewman has died on his watch and the circumstances surrounding it. He's giving a written deposition about what happened, which seems all very formal and to be expected because a man's dead, so you've got to go and have a look at what happened. And then Spock turns up with the recordings from the ship, basically the ship's log in visual format showing what happened from the point of view of the ship. And it's very interesting because it appears to be a video recording, but it can't be. There's a section later on where they zoom in and enhance. Yeah, they do the zoom and enhance thing, but it makes sense in this situation on a specific part of Kirk's chair where all of his command buttons are and shows what he pressed. It's very interesting because that's a completely different angle, and it suggests to me that the data that's on the big block that Spock brings, basically a kind of giant SD card, something like this, only much, much bigger, probably has a huge amount more data on it, let's put it that way. That the card that he's brought can't have visual data on it. It must have something like sensor data, because the computer can then build a visual representation from any angle that they need. So I think it's sensor data rather than CCTV or anything like that, which would explain why you never see any cameras in Star Trek. It's the same thing that the view screen does. That's not just a camera on the outside of the ship. That's sensor data being put together as visual information. So that's pretty cool. But the sensor data that's on that card does not match what Kirk has just said and put into his official deposition. So the Commodore has to take the worst case scenario. This is what you have to do in these sort of situations. There's a discrepancy. You've got to think, right, the possibility is that someone's lying here, so we have to have an investigation. Perfectly understandable, and that's what happens. Kirk, however, is very much of the opinion that he hasn't lied, so something's going on. But the Commodore suggests for the good of the Starfleet, perhaps Kirk would admit that he was under a lot of stress and the strain is getting to him and he just can't do the job anymore. So he'll step down as Starship Captain and lead some little starbase somewhere, or perhaps just a small colony mission, that kind of thing. Something that's got less strain. Just to, for the good of the Starfleet, we won't do a court-martial of a Starfleet captain. Apparently there's never been a captain of a starship ever put to court-martial in Starfleet's history. And that, to me, suggests that this has been done as par for the course. Something's happened, let's sweep it under the rug. Kirk is angry at this point, like seriously angry. Not because someone's claiming that he did something that he didn't do, because obviously there's something going on, they've got to investigate, he understands that. What he's angry at is that they want to sweep it under the rug and do a cover-up, because that's not Starfleet way. But it is Starfleet way, according to this guy. So Kirk is angry, and he wants the court-martial. So, in we go. During the court-martial, various evidence is put forward, and Kirk has this guy who does not rely on computers at all. His lawyer is a book guy. He's got books everywhere. It's very visually interesting because it's a visual way of saying that this guy is on the side of the humans, not the machines, and it becomes man versus machine, both visually and thematically. And I like that. He goes a little bit overboard with being the old...
Your Honour, I'm an old country lawyer.
that kind of thing. He's very much that kind of character, but he comes across quite well. And he just sits there, no questions, Your Honour, through the majority of the episode. He does go on a talk at the end that really doesn't fit, and it feels like it's just there to pad the episode out. He goes,
the US Constitution, the Magna Carta, the Code of Hammurabi.
all of this. Speaking as someone who has a law degree, none of what he's saying would be allowed in court because it's worthless. It's just noise. The judge would be well within their right to say, get to the point or stop. Yeah? But they let him have his say because he's hardly said anything for the entire episode. So he needs his lines to get his fee from the Actors Guild, that kind of thing. I'm making that bit up, but you get the idea. He's just talking and talking. Essentially, he's trying to get across the point that Kirk should be allowed to face his accuser, but his accuser's a computer. So how can he face his accuser? He can't. So how can this be a just thing? Well, that's not a good argument because the court-martial isn't about that his testimony doesn't fit with what the computer says. The court-martial's over the fact that there's a claim that he's perjures himself by saying that this situation happened and the computer says it didn't. So, he is facing his accuser. The accuser is Starfleet, essentially. He perjures himself in front of Starfleet and the tribunal. But it's quite interesting what happens before that. Because some of the evidence, as I said before, is a close-up image of Kirk pressing a button. The claim is that Kirk made an executive decision under an emergency situation to allow a crewman to die by jettisoning a pod in a red alert situation to save the ship. But the computer shows that when he pressed the button to jettison the pod, it was at yellow alert. The emergency, therefore, did not yet exist. But here's the kicker, and I am so glad I watched this on HD because it makes it so much more obvious, because the Blu-rays are really good at showing this up. In every other scene you see where it's getting up to the point where Kirk presses the button to jettison the pod, on his chair, the red alert light is lit. Not the yellow alert, the red alert. The light is red. I love this, because if you're watching carefully, it means that you know exactly what's coming later. The footage that shows yellow alert when you press the button has to therefore be fake, because in every other situation, it's on red. So, we know that Kirk is telling the truth. We knew that from the start anyway. I mean, it's Captain Kirk. He's not going to lie about this. People die under his watch all the time. He doesn't lie about it. It's part of what happens. Risk is part of the game, as he says in Generations.
Risk is part of the game. You want to sit in that chair.
It's dangerous. So, he's not going to lie about someone dying. People die in Starfleet all the time. So, we knew he wasn't lying. So, he's telling the truth. The visuals are telling us two different things, and that is cool, because it means that someone has to have doctored it. Here's the kicker, though. Right at the start, when Spock came in with that card that shows the false information, Kirk is asking him at the time, what took you so long to get here? Because Uhura told Kirk that Spock should have been down 10 minutes ago, but Kirk hasn't seen Spock, and then Spock finally appears. There's something wrong on the ship. It took 10 minutes to beam Spock down, and no one's noticed. So the computer's hiding something from them. Very interesting. And then Spock plays chess, because Kirk says to him, well, at least you might be able to beat your next captain at chess. As Spock realises, hold on, if there is something wrong, playing chess against the computer might give us a clue. So he plays chess. And McCoy comes and berates him because apparently it's got around that Spock's just sat there playing chess while the captain is about to lose his commission. So McCoy comes in and Spock says to him, I've just won 4 games. And McCoy rightly points out, That should be impossible. Which kind of means that the computer chess that Spock's programmed is the worst kind of computer chess, because it's only got one difficulty setting, and that is extremely hard. It's basically a grandmaster. You can't use it as a beginner thing to learn chess. But the idea is there. Spock is able to beat the computer. The best he should be able to get is a stalemate, because he's programmed it with all of his knowledge of how to play chess. So he should basically get a stalemate. It's like playing against himself. But he's beating the computer, which means the computer is not processing things properly. It's not thinking right. It's not doing things right. Someone has messed with the Enterprise. Who could this be? Someone who has a grudge. The guy who apparently is dead has been modifying the computer. And then Kirk, once he knows this and Spock comes down and explains it to the court, they form a plan. Right, we're going up to the ship. Get everyone off the ship except everyone that's on the bridge. So the command crew to keep the ship stable, the court, and no one else. And then they start listening to all the heartbeats on the ship using the sensors. The sensors that so far have been a bit dodgy because they're giving the wrong information. I don't know why they suddenly think it's going to work now, but apparently that's what they're going with. And there's a heartbeat. There's loads of heartbeats. They start using a white noise device. It's a microphone. They should have just admitted it was a microphone linked up to the sensors. But they use it and they take out all the heartbeats of everyone that's on the bridge. And then there's one heartbeat left. But the ship's been evacuated. And of course, the guy who's hiding can't get off the ship because people would notice him. He's got to wait until later when the coast's clear and then get off. Here we are. Someone's still on the ship. Kirk goes to confront him. Kirk should not be allowed to go and confront him. Kirk has been accused of killing this guy. Someone should go with him. But they don't. Kirk goes and confronts him himself. Fight ensues, of course. This guy, who is claiming he's a good officer, he should have been allowed a ship to command of his own, is holding a gun, ranting and raving, and fighting the captain. I don't think he should have been allowed a ship on his own. I don't think that Kirk's ancient reprimand when Kirk and him were ensigns should have ever been something that held him back. The fact he's a nutcase should have held him back. But there we are. And of course, Kirk is then cleared because you can't be put under investigation for killing a guy wrongly when the guy's not dead. I would still say the court has to decide to make a proper statement at the end, but they don't. They just decide, no, I'm going to call this matter closed. Does the prosecution agree? The prosecution agrees, of course they do. But, you know, we can't have everything in terms of legal accuracy. But here we are. It's actually a really interesting episode. It keeps you guessing, but if you're looking out for all the clues, they're there, which I love because it means it rewards repeat viewing. I love the fact that the red alert light is lit if you're looking at everything. It's really well done. Guys, because of that and the fact that it is such a good episode, I have no qualms whatsoever in giving this a warp factor of 9.9. What's the reason I took a point off? The woman that plays the dead guy's daughter is dramatically overacting, let's put it that way. She ruins the scenes that she's in, and she's just not done very well. I think the director could have asked her to tone it down a bit, but, you know, maybe asked her to tone it up a bit, just to really enhance the grief or whatever. But either way, that's a little distraction from this. But aside from that, excellent episode. So, Warp Factor 9.9, Mr. Sulu. Guys, do you think I've been too generous? Have I not been generous enough? Do you disagree with my conclusions or how I think the episode went? I would love to hear your comments in the comment section down below, and let's have a conversation about Star Trek. I really love talking to you guys in the comments, and I answer as many as I can, and it really does. It means the world to me that so many of you have taken to talking about these episodes with me, because I love it. And I hope you do too. But until next time, I've been Zoe Kirk Robinson. You've been watching TrekHammer. Live long and prosper, and I'll see you next time. If you like the show, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help create future videos. That's patreon.com/Zoe Kirk Robinson. And I've got an extra special thanks going out to Chief89, Sam Yates, Retro Mickey 82, Mo Henry, and George Botterini. Thank you so much, guys.